There's a lot of stuff online about artificial intelligence, where it's going. I have no degree, no education in that realm except for being self taught. When I was a kid, I started out programming out of magazines on a Sinclair TI99. That's when I was 7 or 8 years old. My dad bought one for himself, and I was able to use it. I uploaded the programs that I typed in basic programming into a cassette player and was able to upload them and download them from the computer into that particular cassette. Crazy. But that's how it started for me. And then you had the Commodore days, the Commodore 64. I was a volunteer at a planetarium, so they had some pretty high tech machines for the day back then. My dad being an engineer and so on, he brought home some of the latest computers that use these basically cut out whole Scantron type sheets. You would plug in, program the calculator, and it would do these different functions. Very exciting. So that takes me into my segue into law enforcement, having nothing to do with it, but as a result of being bullied as a fat kid and then watching other kids. And I don't know what it was, the kids with special needs. They always seemed to be the ones I was trying to run and save because we always ended up seemingly in the same area. And those kids got bullied, more bullied than everybody else. I don't know if they realized that they were being bullied, but again, I always try to run to the rescue with not very good results. Well, it was good for them because the attention went from them on me, but I always got my butt kicked. So there's that. But moving in from that, getting into law enforcement, doing a career there, and then into real estate, then watching. In real estate, I use as much technology as possible to advertise and market my sellers' listings, not so much to interrupt people and to harass people out there. And I know a lot of people are using auto dialers. I don't know if those are going to be around in the next couple of weeks, but that's something that a lot of people use to try to call the most amount of people to get the most amount of leads. I try to use artificial intelligence in my real estate business and technology to try to sell my sellers' homes better and to also market my services and to educate people. I think education is the most important thing, while real estate isn't much of a mystery anymore. When I got into it back in the day, back in the late 90s, 98, when I became licensed, I noticed that the listings back then were all in a dot matrix printout that was printed out by a printer at the local board of realtors. And usually it was either faxed, and I think this is right when faxes were coming online, so they weren't really trusted all the way. But in fact, back then you would still take a contract and you would take it, hand carry it to the listing agent and have a conversation with him about your buyer. That's changed. Most of it's not done that way. It's done by email today. But going through those times and watching that technology evolve brings me to a very interesting dilemma, whereas we have just created something that isn't your regular demand computer where you're asking to do something and showing it how to do it potentially. In this circumstance, you're asking it how to do something and then it's figuring it out. You might have to prompt it a little bit to get it to figure it out, but now we're even way past that. So the questions that pop into my mind is, have we just created our creator? Have we created something that people are going to start worshiping as God? And is it something that's going to be to a detriment of mankind, or is it going to benefit us? So then I watch all these people that are talking about artificial intelligence, and it seems like most of them are building some kind of a business around it where they're trying to be uh, the CEOs or the corporations' advisors as far as the best implementation of artificial intelligence and this new technology into the business. So I guess they're charging for that. And then on the other end of it, some of them are actually taking, in my world, the real estate world, a lot of agents are very quick to pay out money, and people have figured this out. So agents have a lot of ads, and they're agents. They used to be agents. They still probably are, but now they're monetizing themselves great because they say, well, we'll be able to use artificial intelligence to restructure your business and do all of these social media things, showing that now this agent that's now being handled by this company that this agent's paying, they're going to be able to get leads and all these other sorts of things. So again, there's entire markets being built around the word artificial intelligence. And if you remember not too long ago, 2.0, whatever it was, 2.0 was how people were talking. That was like the slang at the time, showing that the 2.0 version is much better than the original version. Now we have artificial intelligence, which is kind of computer 2.0 on steroids. So there's even more with that. My questions are, where is it going to get us as humans? I understand that the data it learns from, that's something to be wary of, because the data itself, if it's bad data, then it's going to be bad AI. But how do you put in the fail safes to be able to make AI protective of the human element, protective of us? Because frankly, I believe there are good people out there, but there are lots of bad people out there. I come from law enforcement, so I've seen some pretty horrible things at the hand of other human beings. And I know you see the same thing. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, or even if you're in the middle, you watch CNN, you watch Fox, there's different ideals, but there's still bad people in both. And if AI, this thing smarter than us, is learning from bad people, what's going to be the end result when it's given more authority and more power? Right now, it's hard for us to tell the difference between a real image or a fake image. That's something that even a year ago, now we're January 16th, 2025, a year ago, it wasn't hard to tell. You could see certain things, the way the mouth moved, the way the eyes moved, the way the fingers or toes were. But now it's a completely different animal. Now, when you look at pictures and video generated solely by artificial intelligence, it's getting close. And in some cases, I'm sure stuff we haven't even seen. Well, I use the word we weakly. I haven't seen, but I'm sure there's rendering of actual people just like me that look just like me, talk like me, and can do everything that I do, basically cloning me online. So then that has me raise the question, well, who would you rather hear from? An AI version of Connor or the real Connor, or Connor at all? But a lot of people are starting to use these techniques and tactics so they can free up their time. Whenever I see something online that's generated by AI, if I can figure it out, I lose a lot of interest. So I might still watch, but I go from maybe being 100% interested, if that's even possible, at that level, to be that interested. But I drop down 30 or 40 points when I find out or figure out or realize that it's AI generated. I don't know if it's the same for you, but it's just something that concerns me. If we look at the way AI is evolving, the way it's changing, and there doesn't seem to be anybody slowing the process down, which I get it, right? We have other governments that are going to be developing the same type of technology. They're working on it. Some other governments, at least in the media, it's kind of being versed that they're copying our OpenAI model out here, the way that Altman and those cats are putting that together. They're basically copying it. Again, maybe that's a news line. Maybe that's something to get certain people turned against a certain country. The best thing you could do, at least from what I see right now, is definitely fact check. And be careful of the sources you're using to fact check. But I think fact checking is going to be very important. And I don't think it's going to be with these online systems, Snopes, or these other things. I think it's going to be more you actually crawling down that rabbit hole, learning about it, using critical thought, and then thinking and developing your own theory, your own understanding of what you're seeing, what they're telling you. And one of the things that I try to do with everything, well, who is this coming from? And if I were putting out this same information, what would be my purpose? What would I be trying to do by putting out this information? If you ask those two things, where's it coming from and why would I do it? If I had access to it, what would be my purpose? Then you get a lot more answers. Then you kind of figure things out. Well, if I were doing it, it would be to solve this. And then the source is also important. Where's it coming from? If it's coming from a super right, conservative, hardcore individual or company or organization, well, you're going to have an idea maybe why it's being put out there. If it's being put on by a super liberal all the way to the left organization, person, or corporation, then yeah, you kind of get an idea. It's the ones that are in the middle that are spewing little little pieces of data that might not be 100% accurate that we have to worry about. Because slowly but surely, they can convince us that where we might not have thought this particular product was great, that yeah, it's pretty good. And yeah, we're going to buy it. If they can do that with things that we purchase, they're going to probably start doing with things that we vote for and things that we believe in. So protect yourselves. And while you should learn the technology and try to understand it because it looks like it's going to be part of us forever, protect yourselves. Don't forget the human end of it. Don't forget each other. And don't forget the way it was before AI. Because in another generation, you won't be able to find very few that can remember it before AI. Be well. I'm Connor with Honor. We'll talk to you in the next one.